I stood outside the gates of Blackthorn Keep, waiting for the escort that had been sent to receive me. Instead, the first person who came through the gate was Marcus Blackthorn. For a moment, recognition darkened his face. Then the old arrogance returned, smooth and familiar, as if 3 years had changed nothing between us. Welcome to Bibliophile Princess channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Story begins. Sienna? His gaze moved over my cloak, my traveling dress, the quiet curve of my stomach. What are you doing here? He dismounted, and the people behind him followed. Clara Linwood came to his side in a gown too fine for a morning inspection, her attendants gathering around her like a court built for mockery. Marcus looked me over once more. What are you wearing? Clara covered her mouth and laughed. Look at her. 3 years away from Blackthorn Keep, and this is what she has become. One of the men behind her snickered. She must have run out of places to crawl. Clara's eyes dropped to my stomach, and her smile sharpened. I heard some low-born azure dragon got you pregnant. Did he throw you away too? Is that why you came back to beg? The laughter spread through the group. Marcus lifted one hand, and they quieted at once. He had always liked being the one who decided when cruelty should stop. He studied me with the solemn expression of a man preparing to offer mercy. My household does need another servant, he said. Someone to do the rough work. Cleaning, laundry, nursery duties. Nothing difficult. He threw a folded bundle at my feet. Gray servant's livery. The wage will not be generous, but it will keep you alive. In your condition, that is more than anyone else would offer. Clara smiled wider. How kind of you, Marcus. Not many men would take pity on a woman carrying another man's bastard. 3 years ago, I had stood before this same man in ceremonial white, waiting for him to take my hand and complete our dragon bond before the altar of the dragon goddess. He had let go of me in front of every noble house in his territory. Now he wanted me in servant gray. The insult should have hurt more. Perhaps it would have once. I lifted my head and met his eyes. I am not alone. Marcus paused. Clara's laughter faltered, but only for a second. I placed one hand lightly over my stomach. I have my child. Clara stared at me, then burst into a laugh so sharp that even some of her attendants glanced away. So it is true, she said. You were abandoned by some azure dragon and came crawling back with his bastard in your belly. She stepped closer, her perfume heavy and sweet in the cold air. Sienna, you really have no shame. Marcus frowned at her, but not because he disagreed. He preferred his contempt dressed as generosity. That is enough, Clara. Then he looked back at me. You should be grateful I am offering you anything at all. I am not here for your charity. The guards near the gate exchanged glances. They had expected tears, excuses, perhaps a plea for shelter. That was the woman they remembered, the girl who had once loved Marcus Blackthorn enough to let his smallest kindness feel like sunlight. That girl had died at the altar 3 years ago. Marcus stepped closer and lowered his voice. Do not be proud with me, Sienna. I know what happens to women who leave their clans with nothing. You lasted 3 years. That is impressive. But pride will not feed you, and it will not protect that child. He glanced at my stomach with a trace of disdain. Take the livery. Come quietly. Clara may dislike it, but I can still give you a place in my household. He was offering me a place beneath Clara, just enough pay to keep me dependent in the same household where I had once been promised a seat beside him. I did not pick up the livery. Marcus's patience thinned. Sienna. I stepped around the bundle at my feet. I said I am not alone. Clara folded her arms. Then where is this great protector of yours? Where is the man who gave you that child? I do not see anyone rushing to claim you. Behind Marcus, a silver placard stood beside the gate. Welcome Dragon King and the Dragon Queen. The words had been polished bright for the arrival of people Marcus had spent years trying to impress. I pointed to the title. That is who I am. The laughter came almost at once. She says she is the Dragon Queen. She claims she belongs to Kaelin Frost. 3 years away, and she has lost her mind. Clara laughed hardest. When she finally stepped toward the placard, her smile was sharp with contempt. Read carefully, Sienna. We are waiting for the Dragon King's mate, the most honored woman in the dragon clans. Not a rejected woman carrying some nameless child. She raised her voice for the crowd. Perhaps she is not heard. Last month, His Majesty spent 50 million gold marks at the royal auction for a ruby ring. The mention of the ring shifted the mood at once. 50 million? They say it was a relic from the ancient Frost Dragon dynasty. Only the true Dragon Queen could wear something like that. Clara lifted her bare hand into the light, already imagining the ruby on her own finger. One gift, she said, and the entire dragon court understood her place. My thumb brushed the ring on my left hand. Kalen had placed it there himself in the frost garden of the Northern Palace. He had knelt before me with the ancient ruby in his palm and apologized because it was only the best stone he could find. Only Kalen Frost could call a royal relic inadequate. Clara noticed the movement. What is that on your hand? Marcus seized my wrist before I could pull away. The grip bit hard enough to bruise, but his attention had already fixed on the ruby and the frost dragon crest etched along the band. For a brief moment, doubt crossed his face. A good imitation. Clara latched on to that answer with relief. Yes. Of course. It has to be fake. Marcus turned the ring on my finger, his thumb scraping over the crest. Where did you get this? From the azure dragon who abandoned you? Or did you steal it from someone foolish enough to pity you? Let go of me. He pulled harder. Pain shot through my finger as the ring slid free, and the ruby flashed in his palm, brilliant and unmistakable. Even then, Marcus refused to believe it. The workmanship is decent, he said. Whoever made this knew enough to copy the royal crest. It is mine. Clara snatched the ring from him and lifted it above her head. Look at this. A market counterfeit, and she wears it like a crown. Her attendants crowded close, eager to agree now that Marcus had decided what the truth would be. It does look real. Too real for someone like her. Good fakes always do. I held out my hand. Give it back. Clara rolled the ring between her fingers. Or what? Will you summon the Dragon King to punish me? Kalen gave that to me. He struck me across the face before anyone could speak. The blow filled my mouth with blood and snapped the laughter around us into silence. You dare speak the Dragon King's name like he is yours to call? He caught my chin, forcing me to face him. A woman like you does not say His Majesty's name. If he heard you using it to support your lies, he would have you dragged before the dragon court himself. Clara watched with open satisfaction, the ring still trapped in her hand. Marcus released me and smoothed his coat, as if he had only corrected a servant. Enough. I have been more patient than you deserve. His voice softened into the same false mercy he had offered at the gate. Beg me, Sienna. Beg properly, and I'll still take you in. You can work in my household, and I will allow that child in your belly to be born under my roof. Clara's face tightened. Marcus. He ignored her. You have no clan protection, no mate willing to claim you, no title and no coin. Without me, you and that child will not survive long outside these walls. Once, words like those might have broken me. 3 years ago, his rejection had sent me out of Blackthorn Keep with nothing but the dragon goddess's sign and a heart he had left in ruins. Now his pity could no longer reach me. No. I do not need your charity. Clara laughed again, though there was strain beneath it now. She threw the ring at my feet. Then crawl back to whatever gutter kept you alive. When you are starving, remember that Marcus offered you mercy. I picked up the ring and wiped the dust from the ruby with my sleeve. The crest was still intact. When I slid it back onto my finger, Marcus's frown deepened. You will regret this. I left the servant's livery where it lay and walked beyond the gate road. Behind me, Clara called out, Keep pretending, Sienna. When the real Dragon Queen arrives, I hope you are still brave enough to wear that fake. The ring sat steady on my hand. In 3 days, every lord in Blackthorn Keep would see it again. I left the gate road alone, with Marcus's people still laughing behind me. The wind carried their voices away, but the sound pulled me back to another crowd in Blackthorn Keep. 3 years ago, I had stood before the altar of the dragon goddess in ceremonial white, waiting for Marcus to complete our dragon bond. Instead, he let go. "I am sorry, Sienna," he said in front of them all. "I have chosen Clara." Clara stepped out from the crowd with one hand resting over the slight curve of her stomach. Clara carries the pure blood of an ancient dragon clan. With her beside me, my claim to the lordship will be secure. She is also carrying my heir, a pure-blooded child. Whispers spread through the temple. Some pitied me, some laughed, and most simply watched, relieved that the humiliation belonged to someone else. Marcus came closer and lowered his voice, so only I could hear. "Wait for me 1 year. Once I am firmly Lord Blackthorn, I will give you a place. The title of Lady Blackthorn will still be yours eventually." He wanted Clara for bloodline and power. He wanted me waiting in the shadows until he decided I was useful again. That was when I finally understood him. So I neither cried nor begged. I walked out of the temple while the nobles whispered behind me, and by midnight, I had left Blackthorn Keep. Everyone believed I would crawl back within a month. A woman rejected at her own dragon bond ceremony had no protection, no clan standing, and no future worth naming. Perhaps they would have been right if the dragon goddess had not answered me. I knelt beneath the open sky that night and prayed with what little strength I had left. "I do not know what I did wrong," I whispered. "But if this is your trial, I accept it. Only do not leave me alone." Starlight fell across the northern road, bright enough to cut through the dark hills beyond Blackthorn territory. I followed it north. The northern lands belonged to the Frost Dragons, the oldest and most feared bloodline in the dragon clans. At their center stood Kaelin Frost, Dragon King, ruler of every lord who had ever looked down on me. I met him at the edge of the Frostwood. By then my gown was torn from travel, and my feet bled through my shoes. Kaelin did not ask why I had come, who had rejected me, or what shame I carried. He only placed his cloak over my shoulders. "Are you cold?" That was all. No pity, no bargain, no demand that I prove my worth before he offered kindness. He healed what the journey had done to my body, then waited with impossible patience while my heart learned it was safe to open again. Within our first year together, I gave birth to our son. The seers called him the strongest frost dragon airborne in centuries. Kaelin only held him against his chest and cried so quietly that no one in the court dared admit they had seen it. Now, I carried our second child. A pulse of light warmed inside the messenger crystal at my wrist, and Kaelin's words appeared in silver script. Only a few hours apart, and I am already losing patience. "Come back soon, my queen. I want to hold you." I smiled despite myself. Outside these walls, the Dragon King was powerful enough to silence entire courts. With me, he had always been shamelessly tender. Behind me, Blackthorn Keep still rang with distant laughter. They were laughing at my plain dress, my child, my ring, and the lie they thought I had told. I touched the ruby once more. "In 3 days," I murmured, "we will see who is still laughing." 3 days later, Blackthorn Keep opened its gates for the Dragon Court banquet. Every dragon lord was required to attend with his mate and swear loyalty before the Dragon King. Marcus had clearly spent more coin than taste preparing for it. The Great Hall had been remade in black and silver, with banners of the Black Dragon clan hanging from the pillars and 2 thrones raised at the far end of the room. One for the Dragon King and one for the Dragon Queen. Marcus entered with Clara on his arm. Clara wore a deep violet gown heavy with jewels, every piece chosen to remind the room that she was the woman Marcus had chosen. I arrived alone. I did not wear court silk or royal jewels. My gown was simple and loose enough not to press against the child I carried, its pale fabric almost plain beneath the light. Kaelin had commissioned it himself, with frost dragon protection spells woven into the lining. It was safer than any armor in that hall. Marcus saw me before I reached the center of the room. Clara followed his gaze and laughed loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "Look who managed to slip inside." The nobles closest to her turned. Some recognized me from the gate. Others only saw a pregnant woman in a plain gown walking into a room filled with dragon lords and jeweled mates. Sienna Vale, Clara announced, making my name sound like an insult. The rejected little stray has returned for a royal banquet. Marcus set down his goblet and came toward me. How did you get in? I walked through the door. This is not a village feast. Everyone here was invited by rank, bloodline, or court authority. His eyes moved over my gown and paused at my stomach. Whatever trick got you past the guards, leave before you make this worse. Clara came to stand beside him, her smile bright with cruelty. You could not even find a proper dress? Or is this what abandoned women wear when they try to catch another noble's pity? Several ladies behind her hid their smiles behind their fans. Pregnant and shameless, one murmured. Perhaps she thinks the Dragon King collects strays, another said. Marcus heard them and said nothing. Sienna, I offered you a place in my household. You refused. That does not mean you can force your way into the Dragon Court and embarrass yourself in front of every clan. I am not embarrassing myself. Clara laughed. No? You came here dressed like a servant, carrying a bastard, wearing a fake royal ring, and now you stand in the Dragon King's hall as though anyone owes you respect. Her words carried all the way to the royal dais, exactly where I needed them. I walked past her. Clara's smile faltered when she realized where I was going. Marcus understood a heartbeat later.
Sienna.
His warning followed me, but I kept walking toward the dais. The two thrones stood beneath the silver banners of the Dragon Court. The larger one was carved from black stone veined with frost blue crystal. Beside it, the queen's throne waited beneath a canopy of pale dragon silk. Before I could reach the first step, Marcus caught my wrist. Have you lost your mind? He hissed. Those seats belong to the Dragon King and Dragon Queen. I know. If you sit there, not even I can save you. His Majesty will not tolerate a madwoman insulting his mate in front of the court. Behind him, Clara raised her voice again. Drag her out. She is doing this on purpose. She wants to ruin the banquet before the real Dragon Queen arrives. A few guards moved uncertainly at the edge of the hall, but none of them dared touch me so close to the royal dais. Marcus leaned closer, anger breaking through his restraint. Leave now. I may still be able to explain this as grief, jealousy, illness, anything but treason. I pulled free. The protection spell in my sleeve flared cold against his fingers, and Marcus released me with a sharp breath. I stepped onto the first stair of the dais and turned back to face him. That is my seat. Then Clara stepped forward, her smile stretched too tight. Your seat? She looked from me to the queen's throne, then back to the crowd, inviting them to share her disbelief. Sienna, there are lies, and then there is treason. You should know the difference. I raised my left hand. The ruby ring caught the light above the dais, and the frost dragon crest along the band flashed silver blue. Look carefully. An old dragon lord standing beside the second table narrowed his eyes. His expression changed first, suspicion draining into shock. That crest, he said quietly. It is not a court copy. Another lord leaned closer, then drew back as if the ring itself had burned him. That is His Majesty's private mark. Unease spread faster than the earlier laughter. Clara's face went pale for one breath before rage covered it. No, she snapped. Do not be stupid. She stole it. The accusation gave the room something easier to believe. She must have stolen the Dragon Queen's ring, Clara said, louder now. That is why she came here. She wanted to use it in front of everyone before Her Majesty arrived. Marcus's grip returned to my wrist. Sienna, he said under his breath. Tell me where you got this. I already told you. His jaw tightened. Do not make this worse. Clara lunged for my hand. I moved back, but someone behind me shifted at the same time. A foot caught my ankle, deliberate enough to send me hard against the marble. Pain struck through my knees and wrist. I curled around my stomach before anything else. One hand braced under me. Breath trapped in my chest until the child moved faintly beneath my palm. Only then did I breathe again. Clara did not care that I was pregnant. She stepped onto my hand and bent over me, her fingers closing around the ring. Thief, she hissed. Give it back. Get off me. She pressed harder. The pain shot up my arm, but I kept my fingers clenched. The ring had been placed on my hand by my mate before the frost garden, beneath the blessing of the dragon goddess. It was not something Clara Linwood had the right to touch. Her nails lengthened into dark dragon claws. Several people gasped, but no one stopped her. She twisted the band. A sharp crack cut through the hall. The ruby tore loose from its setting and struck the marble, splintering into red fragments that scattered across the white stone. Clara held up the broken band.
See? A fake.
A true royal relic would never break in the hands of a pure-blooded dragon. The old lord who had recognized the crest said nothing. His face had gone gray. I pushed myself upright, my injured hand pressed against my stomach. You broke what the Dragon King placed on my finger. Clara's answer was a slap. My head turned with the force of it. The taste of blood returned, familiar now, but the hall had become too quiet for her to enjoy it. You are still pretending, she shouted. You steal a ring, insult Her Majesty, and dare speak His Majesty's name as though he belongs to you? The guards at the side of the hall finally moved. Throw her out, Clara ordered, before the Dragon King arrives and sees this filth near his throne. They hesitated. Marcus looked down at me, torn between fear of the court and the old certainty that I was still his to manage. At last he crouched in front of me, lowering his voice into that same false mercy. Sienna, listen to me. You have gone too far, but I can still help you. Admit you stole the ring. Say grief made you mad. Beg forgiveness, and I will take you away before His Majesty comes. Clara shot him a furious look. Marcus. He ignored her. I can protect you, he said. You and the child. But you must stop this now. I looked from the broken ruby scattered across the floor to Marcus. You cannot protect me from the man who gave me the ring. The great doors opened before Marcus could answer. A voice came from the doorway, low and clear enough to silence the room. Who dared touch my wife? Kalen Frost stood at the entrance of the hall. He wore formal black trimmed in silver, the frost dragon crest embroidered across his chest. In his arms was a little boy with the same ice-blue eyes, one hand hooked around his father's collar as he studied the room. Every lord in the hall bowed at once. It was instinct. Kalen's power rolled through the room like winter breaking over the mountains, forcing heads down and knees weak. Even the stronger dragon lords lowered their eyes. Clara was the first to move. She arranged her face into a smile and hurried toward him, still clutching the broken band of the ring. You, Majesty, forgive the disturbance. We caught a thief near the royal dais. This woman stole the Dragon Queen's ring and tried to pass herself off as your mate. She turned slightly, pointing toward me as if presenting proof of her loyalty. I stopped her before she could disgrace the throne. The little boy in Kalen's arms went still. His bright eyes found me on the floor, taking in the swelling across my cheek, the blood at the corner of my mouth, and the torn skin on my hand. Then he struggled out of Kalen's hold and ran. Mama. That one word destroyed every lie in the hall. Theo threw himself against me with a sob, careful of my stomach even in his panic. His small hands hovered over my bruised face, too frightened to touch. Mama, who hurt you? The nobles who had mocked me minutes ago began lowering their eyes. The truth settled over them piece by piece. I was the Dragon King's mate. The child in my belly was his. The ring Clara had broken was real. Someone whispered, "She is the Dragon Queen." Another voice answered, thin with fear. Then what did we just do? Marcus had not moved since they called me Mama. All the color had left his face. Clara shook her head. Boo, that is impossible. The child is confused. She must have taught him to say that. Theo turned toward them. She is my mother. His voice was snail, but frost gathered along the Mardi at his teat. Carlin crossed the hall, and the crowd parted before him. He knelt beside me, his fury changed when he saw my injuries up close, and his hand touched my cheek with impossible care. Does it hurt? That almost undid me, not the slap or the broken ring, but the way his voice shook over a question he should never have needed to ask. I am all right, I said. His gaze dropped to my hand. The mark of Clara's heel had already darkened across the skin. Broken ruby fragments lay scattered near my knees, bright as blood on the marble. Kaelin picked up one shard. The temperature in the hall fell. Candies guttered. Breath turned white. Frost climbed the goblets and spread across the tables. Who touched her? No one spoke. Answer me. The old dragon lord who had recognized the crest bent his head. Your Majesty, Lady Clara accused Her Majesty of theft. She stepped on her hand and broke the ring. Lord Marcus struck her earlier at the gate, and again today she was struck before the court. Your Majesty, I did not know, Marcus said. She never told you. She told you. Kaelin cut him off. She wore my mark. She spoke my name. She stood before my throne. Marcus dropped to one knee. I thought she was lying. No, Kaelin said. You hoped she was. Marcus lowered his head, unable to answer. Clara tried one last time. Your Majesty, I only meant to protect the Dragon Queen's honor. Anyone would have doubted her. She came alone, dressed plainly, and she never announced. She owed you nothing. Kaelin rose, with the broken ruby in his palm. My queen does not need to prove herself to those beneath her. Clara went silent. Theo pressed closer to me, his little body shaking with anger and fear. I gathered him against my side as Kaelin's power tightened around us like a wall of ice. His eyes swept across the hall. Every person who raised a hand against her, mocked her, or stood by while she was harmed will answer under Dragon Court law. A few nobles began to tremble. Someone near the back dropped to their knees. Kaelin looked at Clara last. As for you, he said, you broke the ring I placed on my mate's hand. The broken band in Clara's fingers turned white with frost. She cried out and released it too late. The metal shattered against the floor. Kaelin's voice remained cold and steady. You will learn what it means to touch what is mine. Kaelin's words left Clara shaking where she stood, the broken ring lying between us with frost spreading over its metal. I rose with Kaelin's help, one hand still protecting my stomach. The child shifted faintly beneath my palm, and through the bond Kaelin felt my fear before I could hide it. We are safe, I said. His gaze moved from me to the hall. Who else? The question was quiet, but everyone who had laughed at the gate seemed to hear judgment in it. I pointed to Marcus first, then Clara, then the men who had mocked me outside the city gates, and the noble women who had smiled behind their fans while I was called a thief and a stray. Some lowered their heads before my hand reached them. Others tried to hide behind relatives with higher titles. Their faces showed no remorse, only panic at having chosen the wrong woman to harm. A woman in a gold gown stepped out before the silence could settle. She was beautiful, richly dressed, and foolish enough to believe beauty still mattered. Your Majesty, she said, lowering her head just enough to resemble respect. These people have behaved disgracefully. Perhaps I can arrange a private chamber where you may rest while the guards remove them. Her hand reached for Kaelin's sleeve. Frost stopped her fingers inches away. The gold scales along her neck dulled to gray beneath the pressure of his power. Her smile died, and 2 royal guards came forward before she could form another word. Remove her from court, Kaelin said. I will not kill you here. That did not comfort them. Under Dragon Court law, raising a hand against the Dragon Queen is treason. Publicly aiding that harm, concealing it, or encouraging it will be judged as complicity. A lord near the third table dropped to his knees. Your Majesty, mercy. I only laughed. I did not touch her. You laughed while she was harmed. His mouth shut. Another man began offering gold, territory, military service, anything he thought might purchase forgiveness. Kaelin let him finish, then answered with one word.
No.
The royal guards moved through the hall, marking every person I had named with frost blue seals at the wrist. Those seals bound them to Blackthorn Keep until judgment. They could not leave, shift into dragon form, or call upon clan protection. Clara watched the seals appear on others and finally understood that rank would not save her. She dropped to her knees. Your Majesty, I was misled. Marcus told us she was nothing. Everyone knew he rejected her. How could I have known she was truly your mate? Kaelin looked at the bruise her feel-bad left on my hand. You did not need to know her file to know she was pregnant. Clara stopped breathing. You did not need to know her name to know she was on the floor. Kaelin turned to the guards. Hold Clara Linwood for formal judgment. Strip her of Blackthorn protection until the court rules. No clan seal, no court access, no dragon form privilege. Clara reached for Marcus. Say something. Marcus did not move. He was looking at me, but not with regret. He looked like a man staring at a throne he could have touched if he had not let go of my band 3 years ago. A healer in white robes hurried forward and knelt beside me. Your Majesty, please allow me to treat your injuries. Theo planted himself between the healer and me, small fists clenched at his sides. Be careful, he ordered. If Mama hurts, I will know. The healer bowed deeply. Of course, Your Highness. Kaelin's hand remained at my back, steady but tense. What happened from the beginning? He asked. Marcus forced himself to step forward. Your Majesty, he said, voice rough with fear. This was a misunderstanding. Marcus's attempt at dignity lasted only as long as Kaelin allowed it. A misunderstanding, Kaelin repeated. Frost still clung to the floor around his boots. The broken ruby lay near my feet, each fragment bright against the marble. Marcus swallowed. Sienna and I were once promised to each other, he said. We were fated mates. The board was never properly released. He turned to me with a look I had once mistaken for tenderness. Sienna, tell them. We were together for 7 years. Whatever happened between us, the bond was real. The promise was real, I said. Until you broke it. You were angry. You left before we could speak properly. You let go of my hand at the altar and chose another woman in front of every noble house sworn to Blackthorn. Clara's fingers curled into her skirt, but Marcus no longer looked at her. I made a political choice, he said quickly. Clara's bloodline could secure my lordship. You knew what Blackthorn needed. What Blackthorn needed was honor. Kaelin stood close behind me, but the words were mine to give. You asked me to wait in the shadows while Clara gave you legitimacy. You promised me a title later, after I had already been humiliated. That was not a bond. That was ownership. Marcus's composure cracked. Sienna, I was wrong. But you cannot pretend there is nothing left between us. There is nothing left. His eyes moved to Kaelin. You chose him because I hurt you. That is all. He found you wounded and angry, and you let him replace me. I covered Carlin's hand with mine. In this life, my only mate is Kaelin Frost. The bond answered before anyone else could. Silver blue light rose beneath my skin and flowed into Kaelin's hand, bright and unmistakable. It was not the fragile ceremony Marcus had abandoned, it was a completed dragon bond, blessed by the dragon goddess and sealed by choice. Kaelin's fingers closed around mine, careful of the bruises, and the cold in the room softened around me and Theo. Marcus stared at the bond light.
No.
She would not bless this. Clara let out a broken laugh. Now you care about the dragon goddess? Marcus turned on her. Be quiet. But Clara had already lost too much to obey him. You told everyone our union was blessed. You paraded me through Blackthorn Keep as your chosen mate. You said my child would be the pure-blooded heir. Marcus's mouth opened, but nothing useful came out. Say it, Clara snapped. Tell them the truth. He backed away half a step. Sienna, listen to me. Clara and I never completed the dragon bond. The dragon goddess never accepted her. Clara screamed his name. Royal guards seized her before she could reach him, but she kept struggling. You used me. You used my bloodline, my child, my family name. You knew what this was, Marcus snapped. You wanted the title as much as I did. And our son, she demanded. Was he only useful while you thought Sienna would never return? Marcus did not answer quickly enough. The Blackthorn elders withdrew from him without a word. Marcus saw the room leaving him. Sienna, come back to me, he said. I will complete the dragon bond properly. I will give you the ceremony you deserved. The whole court will witness it.
No.
I will raise your child as mine. Kaelin's power lashed through the hall. Marcus dropped to one knee under the pressure, but desperation kept words spilling from him. I will make you the true lady of Blackthorn. Clara means nothing. Her son means nothing. He was only a tool to secure what should have been ours. Clara went rigid in the guard's hold. Carlin's voice cut through Marcus's pleading. The dragon goddess does not bless traitors. Marcus looked up at me. She will forgive me if you return. The bond can be restored. It has to be restored. I had loved him for 7 years and mistaken ambition for duty because I wanted to believe the man I loved could not be small. Now he was on his knees in front of the court, begging not for me, but for the throne he had lost through me. Marcus. His eyes lifted, hungry for mercy. I am grateful for one thing. Hope flickered across his takes. I am grateful I left you 3 years ago. The last color drained from him. I turned from Marcus Blackthorn and took Kaylin's hand. Behind us, Clara began laughing through her tears, and Marcus remained on the marble floor, staring at the bonlight he could never claim. Theo stepped out from behind the before I could stop him. He was still small, but frost dragon light had already begun to gather in his ice-blue eyes. Do not talk about my mother like she belongs to you. Marcus stared at him. Theo stood beside Kaylin, trying not to tremble. You hurt her. Father would never do that. Marcus's face flushed with humiliation. Clara broke first. Marcus had called her son a tool in front of the entire court. Now Kaylin's heir stood there defending me, and no one dared laugh. Her gaze fixed on Theo. You little dash. Dark claws burst from her hands before the royal guards could tighten their hold. Scales crawled over her wrists, jagged and gray, forced out by panic and rage. I will kill you. Kaylin moved, but I was closer. I pulled Theo into my arms and turned my body over his. Clara's claws tore across my back, ripping through fabric, skin, and the protection spell woven into my gown. Pain blinded me. Theo screamed. Kaylin's roar shook the hall. The force of it hurled Clara backward. Tables cracked, windows split under frost, and every marked defender dropped beneath the weight of his power. I held Theo until I felt him breathing against my chest. Then the pain took me. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the palace healing wing. The ache in my back returned first, deep beneath layers of salve and bandage. Theo. Lena caught my hand before I could rise. Safe. Not a scratch on him. You held him so tightly the healers had to calm him before he would let go. And the baby? Safe too. The claws missed anything vital. Only then did I breathe. Lena's eyes were red, but her voice stayed steady. Clara is in the lower frost cells. Marcus is under guard. Every noble who helped, mocked, or stood by has been marked for dragon court judgment. Kaylin had turned his anger into law. Where is he? Council dragged him away. He knelt beside your bed all night before that. Footsteps came fast beyond the door. Kaylin entered still wearing the black formal clothes from the banquet, frost clinging to the edges of his coat. The moment he saw me awake, the Dragon King vanished from his face. He crossed the room and knelt beside the bed. I should not have let you out of my reach. His voice was hoarse. Not for a second. I touched his face. Kaylin. I promised you safety. You came. Too late. You came, I repeated. A small voice came from the doorway. Mama? Kaylin lifted Theo onto the bed. He curled against my side, shaking, and I held him as tightly as my injury allowed. Kaylin wrapped his arms around both of us. Theo pressed against my side, and for the first time since the banquet, I let myself breathe. My son was safe, my mate was here, and everyone who had mistaken my quietness for weakness had finally learned the cost. A week later, the healers allowed me to leave the palace healing wing. The wound across my back still hurt, but the child was safe. Theo checked every morning anyway, pressing his ear to my stomach until he felt movement, before he would let anyone near me. Kaylin had gone to sign the final dragon court orders, so I was alone when the guards brought Marcus in. He no longer looked like Lord Blackthorn. His face was bruised, his coat torn, and the clan ring had been stripped from his hand. In his palm lay a small diamond ring I recognized at once. I had carved its setting when I was 15, back when I still believed I would marry him. Marcus placed it on the table beside my bed. Sienna, he said, voice rough, I still love you.
No.
You love what I became after I left you. You love the throne beside Kaelin. You love the power you lost. His face tightened. I have regretted it every day since you walked out of the temple. You regretted losing. That is not the same thing. The guards moved to take him away, but Marcus looked past me toward the door. Kaelin stood there with the healer's clearance in his hand. Marcus gave a bitter laugh. You think she truly loves you? You were a replacement. A powerful one, but still a replacement. She married you because I broke her heart. The bond between Kaelin and me tightened with pain he refused to show. Tell him, Sienna, Marcus said. Tell him he was not your first choice. That is enough. Kaelin ordered the guards to remove him. Marcus fought them all the way down the corridor, shouting that no second mate could ever be real, that our bond was only revenge dressed as fate. His voice faded, but Kaelin did not come closer. The escort is ready, he said. I will wait outside. The ride back to the northern palace passed in silence. Theo slept against my side while Kaelin sat across from us, close enough to guard us and far enough away to punish himself. After Theo was carried to his nursery, Kaelin shut himself in his study. I gave him an hour before I followed. He was not at his desk. A drawer had been left half open, and inside lay a bundle of old parchment sealed with the mark of the dragon goddess's temple. I should have closed it, but then I saw my name. The first page was an oracle record from 10 years ago. Sienna Vale, born under the winter star, fated to stand beside the frost dragon throne. Beneath it were Kaelin's notes. She is already promised to Blackthorn. I have no right to interfere. Another record had been dated 2 years later. The bond has not yet been sealed. She seemed tired today in the temple garden. I sent extra guards to the northern road, but they are not to approach unless she is in danger. The last page was from the night I left Blackthorn Keep. The dragon goddess has opened the path. If she comes north, I will meet her. If she turns back, I will let her go. The study door opened behind me. Kaelin stopped when he saw the papers in my hands. You knew, I said. Yes. How long? Since you were 15. That answer could have frightened me, but the papers did not speak of possession. They spoke of distance, restraint, and a man who had known fate had named me, but still refused to take what I had not chosen to give. Kaelin's voice was low. The dragon goddess showed me your name long before you came north. But you were bound to another man. I watched only through temple records and border patrols. I told myself it was protection. When I came to the Frostwood, you were already waiting. Yes. You planned to make me love you? No, the answer came too quickly to be anything but truth. I hoped. I prayed. But if you had asked to leave, I would have let you go. I placed the papers back on the desk and went to him. You foolish man. He looked at me as though he still expected judgment. I loved Marcus when I was young because I thought love meant being chosen by the person I had been promised to. I love you because you found me with nothing and never once made me feel small. His hand closed around mine. You are not my replacement mate, Kaelin Frost. Silver blue light rose between our joined hands. You are my true mate, my only mate. This time, the dragon bond did not flare for proof or judgment. It opened quietly between us, carrying his heartbeat into mine along with the fear, relief, and love he had kept guarded for too long. Kaelin bowed his head to my shoulder, and I held him until the last of Marcus's poison left the space between us. The next morning, the Dragon Court announced its final judgment. Clara Linwood was stripped of clan protection and dragon form privilege for life. They're exiled beyond the southern border. Marcus Blackthorn lost his title, his lands, and his claim before the court. Blackthorn Keep passed under royal supervision until a worthy lord could be appointed. I did not attend the sentencing. I watched from the frost garden as Theo chased pale dragonflies between the silver trees. Kaelin stood behind me, one hand resting over our unborn child, the other linked with mine. 3 years ago, I had walked out of Blackthorn Keep with nothing but a broken heart and a road of starfight. Now I had my mate, my children, and a future no one could take from me. For the first time, fate felt like home.
The end.
Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Comment down below what you'd like to see next. See you in the next one.